thank you everyone who's able to join us on this Facebook Live. We are here with the amazing Lisa Dahl. She is an expert in all things nutrition, fitness, and tonight she is going to be talking with us about a particular specialty of hers, which is meal prep and planning. So I was sitting at my desk over the weekend looking at the news and trying to think of, goodness gracious, there's so much going on right now. What could I possibly do to do something in the group to help with anything that's going on? And bing, bing, Lisa rang up and she said, hey, let's talk, what about, doing something in the group about meal prep and planning? I said, that's great. So Lisa, I'm gonna throw it to you. Why did you reach out to me? Why are we here tonight?
So I kind of feel like it's the elephant in the room without creating panic, chaos. We all have heard coronavirus, COVID-19, all this new language that is becoming common. And I'm starting to get questions on how do you plan for this? And by no means am I talking panic or drama. That is not the purpose of the conversation. I am not here to sound the alarm bells. I'm just talking and sharing about what I do on a regular basis, how to help my clients. And if it starts to become more common in our area, to be able to give people the choice if they want to go out and go to the supermarket and be in public, or do they want to be able to retreat and stay home and be able to nourish their bodies, eat well, and still take care of themselves without adding the stress of how to manage. We all have to eat every day. It's not going to change. It's not going away. How do we plan for it? And any planning that we do, whether we need it for that instance or not, it's still going to benefit you, because if we don't need it, which hopefully we don't, you'll have meals and a way to be able to better get through your day, your week, next month. So it's really talking about general concepts and applying it with a specific purpose.
So what kind of things, this is your area of expertise, what kind of things can you make ahead of time?
So one of my go-tos are typically soups and chilies, anything that I can make and duplicate that I can freeze. So a perfect example is that if I am making sweet potato black bean burgers, I will double that recipe and I will freeze probably 3/4 of it, because there's only 2 of us or 3 of us in my house right now. So anything I make always have leftovers. So I can use that sweet potato black bean burger tomorrow for lunch, or I can stick it in the freezer and I can use it next week whenever I want. If I go to a meeting and I get home at 9 o'clock at night, the one thing my partner and I always do is, no matter what time we get home, we have dinner together. Sometimes that's at 8 o'clock at night, sometimes it's at 9:30 at night. It is our time to connect, and sometimes we need to really keep it simple and easy, and that is me leaving direction on pull out of the freezer and reheat. So how do you, depending on how you choose to eat, it's looking at those foods on what can be prepared, multiplied, duplicated, repurposed for another day, or to tuck away into the freezer and use in the future. Soups are great. And what I really like about soups is I eat primarily a plant-based diet, not to say that I won't eat chicken or fish. I don't eat red meat. So thinking ahead in that, maybe if I don't want to go out for a week, I'm not going to have fresh vegetables in my house. I know that if I prepare some sort of vegetable soup, I can get my veggie there, so that if I can't make a salad, I can supplement and pull out some sort of soup. Or I make soups that have all the components that make a healthy meal. So when I talk about a healthy meal, I always think about trying to incorporate some sort of low processed carbohydrate, a healthy protein, and a vegetable. So an example would be, if I make a sweet potato lentil soup. I can have sweet potatoes, which are going to be my low processed carbohydrate. I will have lentils, which will be a healthy protein, and I'll throw in some carrots and onions, which are more vegetables, so that I'm having all of the components without having to worry about going food shopping. What am I putting together? And yes, it takes time. I am not going to tell you that all of a sudden it magically appears. When I prep and I cook, it may take me a couple of hours, but I will get out of a pot of soup, because I'll double it or triple it, I'll get 10 or 12 meals out of 2 hours worth of time. So it's upfront time that's going to save me time in the future. And that's the time for me that's typically more valuable. So that when I carve out time to plan and prep and cook, it's an investment in my future. And the rewards are priceless. At 9 o'clock at night, or if you have kids and you need to get food on the table at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, to be able to think about, all I have to do is pull something out of the freezer, stick it in a pot of water so it defrosts during the day, put it on the stove, and you're good to go. It limits that stress. So thinking ahead with the topic of the night is, how do you plan for if you don't want to go out? And we're not talking about, you know, the snowstorm where all of a sudden 3 days out you find out we're going to get 3 feet of snow and everybody has that mad dash into the supermarket. How can you strategically plan so that you're not part of that chaos if that should happen? And go ahead, what's your question?
I was going to ask, as you were talking about meal prepping for soups and chilies and that kind of thing, what do you prep into? Like, what is your go-to container that, like, do you wait? These are really just simple, probably dumb questions. Like, how long do you wait for it to cool down before you like put it in plastic, or do you use glass? Like, what do you put it in?
So those are great questions, and I will never forget. My daughter was in high school, and she had a friend of hers come over, and the girls were over, and they were cooking, and they opened my drawer, and I have an exorbitant amount of Tupperware and glass. And literally she looked in there and she's like, "Holy shit, Mrs. Dahl, what are you keeping in here?" And she starts like whipping out all this Tupperware. And I use it all. I mean, if you want, I'm gonna go and be a little extreme, and I'm gonna take you on a little tour down to my freezer.
That's great.
And I'm gonna show you what is in my freezer. So.
Oh, this is great.
Hang on.
Oh, this is for my drink.
Downstairs, we're getting a little tour. It might be a little dark. So.
This is fantastic.
Can you?
And anybody who has questions, feel free to put it in the live comments there, and I can ask them too.
So I've got, let's see, I've got plastic. I have mason jars. When I run out of everything, I have Ziploc gallon freezer bags. I have leftover supermarket containers. So I have a hodgepodge. For my meal planning workshops, I always give away a soup to go in a mini container to kickstart somebody's meal planning for the week. So I have those tucked in here as well.
Are you guys seeing this? This is amazing.
So here is, I've got a bunch of like veggie chilies. I have chicken soup, so that it's a small investment of time, and I just do it in mass production so that I don't have to think about meals 7 nights a week. Look at that look.
I'm sitting here with my mouth going, what? Oh my gosh, that's incredible. And that's just a stand-up freezer. Right. Wow.
And then here is.
Every time I talk to you, you get
chaos. Here's my, I don't know if you can see this. Can you, let's see if I can figure out how to. My chaos drawer of Tupperware. Can you see it or not? I don't know.
Yeah, oh, wow.
It's hardly organized.
We see it.
So,
well, actually, I can see it. You guys, the Tupperware is coming. I can see the live feed in that delay. The Tupperware's here.
so the Tupperware is hardly organized. It's hodgepodge. I have tried to keep it organized, move more to glass containers, and I still continue to reuse everything, all my old stuff that I have. So Tupperware is not a problem. I'm a former caterer, and it multiplies, it breeds. I don't know where it comes from. And then some days there's nothing in there. Like my daughter will take food wherever she goes, and all of a sudden there's nothing left in the drawer, and then all of a sudden she comes home, and then it's had babies. I have no idea.
I understand that. I have to always remember to like bring anything that my sister-in-law is an amazing cook and baker, and she always sends me home with them. I always make sure like I return them though, because I don't want to be that person that walks away with the Tupperware. So we talked about the plastic, we talked about the freezing things and mason jars and all those. That's great. So okay.
Going back, wait, before we even do that, couple things that you want to think about is if you're going to cook hot, you have a hot soup, you want that to cool down quickly. And so you just want to be careful how long things are sitting out, how long they're cooling. If you're putting it in glass, make sure that you leave enough space up top for it to expand so that the glass doesn't crack. If you are out of containers, the freezer Ziploc bags are awesome and an easy way to fill them so you don't go crazy. Hang on. I'm going to show you an easy way to fill the bags.
All right, Lisa, if you can still hear me, I'll read you some of the comments.
Okay, I'm still listening.
Okay, let's see. You are amazing. Holy cow, I wish my freezer looked like that. Your Tupperware is very organized, and I am so ready for the meal prep master. I think I read them in reverse order, but.
So if you are going to use bags, take some sort of bowl, put the bag in the bowl so that it has a flat bottom to container, and then you can flip it over so that you can just pour your soups in, and then it comes out, and you can just Ziploc it, lay it flat, and throw it into your freezer when you're ready to go.
Holy mackerel. That's genius. That's amazing. Oh my God. So we just talked about the plastic, we talked about the glass. What about canned goods? What do you look for in a canned product if someone wants to, if that's part of the mix, what does that look like?
So canned products you want to look for the least amount of ingredients possible. So any unidentifiable ingredients, if you can't pronounce it, look to see what other cans that have the same product will have less ingredients in there. You want to look for things that don't have added sugar, that don't have added sodium, trying to get as pure to the original product as possible. I eat a ton of beans and lentils, and I buy canned beans. I have an Instapot. That thing is bigger than I am. I know that there's a lot of people that swear by Instapots and slow cookers. I love my pots and pans. The Instapot scares me. I can't figure it out. It is above my pay grade. I love my pots and pans. And if that is the case, I go for canned beans unless I am making some sort of soup where I will simmer things and let that be. For everyday purposes, canned is really okay if you're looking at the ingredients. There's nothing wrong with frozen vegetables. It depends on what you're going to be doing with it, determines what you want to buy. I typically will buy fresh produce. Rarely will I buy canned vegetables because just thinking about the future, I would rather have prepared foods personally, so I have soups and those kinds of things, versus canned vegetables. And that's just a perfect personal preference. And just know that my freezer this was not in preparation of the coronavirus. This is how I strategically get through the winter, of busy work life. So it wasn't like I'm like all of a sudden panicked and cooking 10 different things at once. So I just want to be very clear that I'm not creating a bunker downstairs in my basement. So
it's absolutely amazing. Again, you know, busy, snowstorms, or again, it's winter, there's cold, there's flu. It's
right.
like sometimes, or you just don't feel like going outside. If it's, I remember last month up here in Massachusetts, you know, we had that week of like ice rain drizzle, and it's very uninspiring to go out.
And when you look at cans, there's a difference between Best By and expired type of thing. Best By will mean that no matter when you eat it, it's going to be fine. The quality will start to degrade after a certain time. It's not going to be harmful. It's not going to kill you. If the can has an expiration date, that is where you want to take notice, because bacteria could be growing in that can. So if it's Best By, if it's 6 months past its Best By, the best advice that I can give you when it comes to things like, is it good? Use your senses. When you open something up, what is your initial reaction? What, you know, does it smell? How does it look? What does it feel like? What does it taste like? Use your nose is the best way that I can describe it. My kids always laugh. They'll say, well, is the milk good? Well, open it and smell it. Well, I'm not going to smell it, so I have to smell it. And they're 27 and 23, and I'm still smelling the milk. Your nose is better. Okay, translated to, I don't want that bad whiff if it's going to be bad. So, things that will last a couple of months or 6 or 8 weeks is, if you buy a couple of cartons of eggs to have in the house, that can last a long time, and you can multi-purpose them. You can use them for hard-boiled eggs. You can make sunny side up eggs. However you want to do them, they're going to be really okay if you look at the date and you buy them, if you buy them now and be cognizant of what that expiration date looks like, you can have those last for at least 4 to 6 weeks, if not longer, depending on the expiration date and when you hit it. And you can test if an egg is good depending on when you put it into the water, if it sinks or if it floats, and if it stands on its side, and if it stands upright. So you can Google how to tell if an egg is still good. Look at even like organic milk or almond milk. They have expiration dates. I think it's now March, beginning of March. The expiration date is in the middle of April. So those are things that I know that I use all the time. So I'll buy a couple of gallons or cartons and just have them in my refrigerator downstairs. I'm going to use them anyway. I'm not stocking up on foods that I'm not going to use. I'm using everyday things and trying to be strategic on how I can make my life easier, so that if I choose that I don't want to go out for whatever reason, I don't have to go out. I mean, there's times that we'll come home and it's 9 o'clock at night and my partner will say, oh, well, why don't we just go out? I'm like, we have a whole freezer downstairs of food. Why do we need to spend $80 on dinner when we can go downstairs and have everything done? And it's really our go-to.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I definitely find when I have things prepped and ready to go, my decisions, especially when I'm hungry, are a lot better. We had a question come up in the comments that I thought canned veggies had less vitamins.
So it depends on how you cook your vegetables. And actually frozen vegetables probably has the best bang for your buck in terms of vitamins and minerals, because they're flash frozen right as quickly as they are picked. And our things start to lose nutritional value as they go through the process, as they go through the manufacturing and the transportation process. In how I would respond to that question is, what is the priority? And yes, it may have some less nutritional content. Is it better than your other choices? Maybe it's not the best choice. Is it better than a ring ding or an Oreo? 100%. So what is it that you're ultimately trying to achieve when you think about vitamins and minerals and the quality of what you're eating? How do you make the best choice that's in front of you? and what is right. And your criteria may be different than my criteria. You may be worried about the sodium content where maybe it doesn't matter to me. So it's thinking about what information you're gathering and why is that information important to you.
Now that's a great answer, for a number of reasons. I love, especially when I speak with you and every time you come on as a featured expert, is that you make these, it's never like one way, it's never like one way or the highway, which I think makes goals pretty like unattainable for people. It's always a graduated scale of, either what works for you, because what works for you might not work for somebody else. And also in terms of acknowledging and working with people along the behavioral line, because we all know that okay, ring ding, maybe selecting an orange better than a ring ding, but, working on the behaviors to help substitute so that the orange is the go-to in the future versus the ring ding.
And, and it's not about the food. What is that food, and then I can easily get off topic there.
Yeah.
The question, so that's a whole other subject.
It really is. And we'll have Lisa on again. If you go into the Ask an Expert series, Lisa has almost a full hour in there talking more about, oh my God, health and wellness. And I don't know, so we're going to start. Lisa, is there anything else that you want to address? Feel free, anyone ask any questions?
Something else is, low processed carbohydrates like quinoa, farro, those things could be made in bulk. And you can freeze them. So if you're into quinoa bowls, but you don't want to make quinoa every day, or you're, worried about, you don't want to eat it 5 days in a row, make a batch, take some out, store some in the refrigerator, and then stick some in the freezer so that you can use it going forward. So always thinking about how you can turn, multiple tasks into one task. Any other questions? These are things that I love to talk about, happy to share information, happy to talk to people about how to meal plan best for their family, because everybody's family looks different, whether it's one person, 3 people, people working, not working, budget, personal chef. There's so many different facets. How do we take a look at what's important to you? What are your priorities? And how do we make meal planning work and prepare for not just today, tonight, next week, and next month?
We had a couple of questions here in terms of, you can freeze quinoa? Question mark?
Yes,
and
you can.
And follow up is, can you freeze rice?
Yes, you can. So you can, and defrost it in, to anything that you defrost into cold water. Keep it packaged and put it into a container of cold water. Don't ever defrost anything sitting on your counter or in a hot water bath, refrigerator or cold water bath. And the quality might not be perfect, and it's really, in my opinion, more than good enough. You might not even know. Depends on how picky you are about, perfectly, rice out of the rice cooker. It might have a little difference in quality, and it really is going to be probably good enough, especially if you're working crazy and you're trying to fit it all in. In my opinion, give it a try and experiment with it and see what it feels like for you.
Can you freeze cooked veggies?
Certain ones, they will get a little mushy. I think it works better in soups and stews. My personal opinion is, for me, I would struggle with cooking roasted vegetables and then sticking them in the freezer. I know that for me, that's not going to work. Certain things will, like I will roast, I shouldn't even say that. I'll roast a chicken that has carrots and onions and sweet potatoes, and I will freeze that. And because of the juices, I don't mind if they're a little bit mushy. The quality degrades a little bit, and it still works, and I still have a second and a third meal. I will roast a bigger chicken than I need. There's only 2 of us, and I will get multiple meals out of that roast chicken, and I will freeze some with the veggies, so I have those. I'll turn some into like a chicken salad, or take the veggies and toss them on a regular salad. So multi-purpose it.
I had another question here in terms of microwave. Feel free to clarify, but I think it was on the heels of our defrosting conversation, or feel free to talk about microwave. Mara, if you want to let me know once the delay in the feed hits you, can you clarify what you mean by microwave? But I'll throw it out in terms of defrosting things in the microwave.
So if I have a frozen soup and I have clearly forgotten that I needed to defrost it, I will put it in my microwave and I will start with 3 or 4 minutes at a time at 50% power, so that I get enough liquid, I can get it out of the container, I'll dump it into a pot, I'll take a knife and try to break up the ice chunks, and I can still have a soup on the table within 10 minutes.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm inspired. This is
Come to my meal planning workshop. We talk about all different stuff.
I was just going to ask you, so how can people contact you? What's the best way for people to contact you to learn more about you, amazing you, and the workshops that you do?
Couple ways. You can go to my website, which is astudioat68.com. So it's a studio at 68.com. And there is information on my meal planning workshops. My next one is Saturday, March 28th from 10:30 till 2. And there's also a contact page, so you can contact me there. You can also Facebook Messenger me, and you can go there, or you can call me direct, 413-427-4154, 413-427-4154, and I do free 30-minute consultations. And my ultimate goal is really about working with men and women on how to be happy, healthy, and confident in any size. Learning how to nourish your body with real food, add movement that makes you happy, understand how stress and sleep affect your choices, ditch the diet, get rid of the food rules, and learn how to have food freedom. And meal plan to make life easier.
We have another question here. Is it, does she make meals to purchase?
I don't. My catering days are done. As much as I loved catering, those days are done. I will send you home with a small container of soup if you come to my meal planning workshop.
Is it possible? Can I do a special request of one of the things, it may be something that your favorite, do you have the ability to put a recipe down in the comments of the feed?
I will happily share a recipe.
Yay! We all get a recipe.
And I'm even contemplating of starting to do some lives of cooking in real time and having people cook, taking time to have people, plan ahead, have the ingredients, and kind of do a Zoom cooking class where we can cook together in a private space. And everybody ends up with something, and it's kind of social. So I'm trying to figure out how to get that technical part together.
That sounds great, because one of the ladies asking is my wonderful friend Heather, who lives in my neighborhood. And so Heather, we can meal plan together. We can take over one of our kitchens. If you haven't, and that hit on something else, is that when I lived in another area, my kids were young, and there was 3 families, and I loved to cook, and it was my easy. And we would divide and conquer. One of us would watch the kids, one of us would go to the grocery store, and I was happy to cook. How can you use your community around you? And if there's a few of you that get together, maybe somebody cooks the protein, maybe somebody cooks the carbohydrates, the quinoa, the farro, whatever it is, somebody makes a vegetable, and you meet for 10 minutes and you split it all up and you walk away with a meal. So there's so many different ways that you can get food on the table. It's just experimenting to see what works best for you and being willing to try and taste new things. I loved your example of a get together, and you had and you gave the example in the Ask an Expert series that you can go to in the group and find that. But you talked about the salad party where everyone didn't, everyone just didn't have, we didn't, in sort of ordering pizza, everyone right. Brought a salad fixing, and you had made this unbelievably wonderful salad for everyone, which is fantastic. Oh, any other questions? See, I don't see any coming through right now. But so thank you, Lisa. Feel free to keep the questions or comments going. This live feed will be up for a while. So Lisa, thank you so much. Lisa from a studio at 68. We'll make sure your contact information's in the comments too, so people can find you. And awesome. thank you so much for coming on tonight. And wow, we just learned a lot in 30 minutes.
Awesome. So thank you so much for having me. And I love to share my knowledge. I'm happy to answer questions, and feel free to reach out. And I look forward to seeing and meeting all of you, hopefully in person at some of your future events.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you everybody who was able to on the live and on the replay. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye.
Bye.